Hello team players! In this video, I do want to cover the changes to the Disarm action and the brand new Reposition action. But I figured since I'm covering both of those, I might as well also just cover the entirety of the athletic skill. But not the skill feats. Skill feats are its own video. If you want to see that, let me know in the comments. I've already got a lot of cover with just the athletic skill, so let's get right into this. I'm going to start with the climb action. So, you can climb ropes and ladders and walls. The GM determines the DC based on what you're attempting to climb. If you quickly succeed on your climb check, you can move 5 feet per 20 foot of movement speed you have, plus an additional 5 feet on top of that. If you succeed, then you can move 5 feet for every 20 foot of movement speed you have. If you quickly fail, you fall. You are also knocked prone if you started on stable ground. Honestly, this isn't going to come up too often. Oh, forgot to mention that you move 5 feet for every 20 foot of land speed you have, in case that wasn't clear. Next we have the force open action. This is what you want to do if you want to force your way through a door or something like that. If you want to try to force open something by prying it open, you need a crowbar, otherwise you take a -2 penalty. If you get a critical success, you open the item without breaking it. On a success, you open the item, but it gains the broken condition. If the item is especially sturdy, it may only take damage instead of breaking. On a critical failure, you jam the item shut, imposing a -2 penalty on further attempts to force it open. Again, this is another one that doesn't really come up too often, but it might come up in some situations. Now we come to an action that should come up a lot if you're playing a martial character, and that is the Grapple action. Like Trip and Disarm, you need a free hand to use this, and your target must not be more than one size category larger than you. You attempt an athletics check against the target's fortitude DC, which essentially means 10 plus whatever your target's fortitude save is. While fortitude saves are your defense against things like diseases and poisons, fortitude DC is your defense against things like grappling. You can grapple a target you already have grabbed without having a hand free. If you critically succeed, the target is restrained until the end of your next turn unless you move or it escapes. Escape is a basic action that you can use to escape things like grapple. You can use an athletics check for that basic action. Restrain just means they can't attack or use manipulate actions or take move actions, meaning essentially they're stuck like that. And the only thing they can do is try to escape. On a success, the target is grabbed for the same duration. Grabbed is essentially the same as restrained, except you can make attack actions, but if you attempt a manipulate action while grabbed, you must make a DC 5 flat check or the action is lost. In other words, this one is very good to use against spellcasters, as almost all spellcasters have low fortitude saves, and almost all spells have the manipulate trait. And remember, both of these make the target off guard. That's off guard against everyone, not just you. So rogues out there, you may want to take advantage of the fighter or the barbarian grabbing somebody. If you fail the check, you fail to grapple the target. If you're already grappling or restraining the target, then those conditions end. If you critically fail, they break free. The target can also grab you or make you fall and land prone. A lot of monsters in Pathfinder 2e do have high fortitude DCs. However, there are quite a few that have low fortitude DCs as well. This is where recall knowledge comes in, but I'll cover that in a different video. Next we have a couple of activities that you're probably going to use out of combat more than anything else, and that is the high jump and the long jump. With the high jump, for 2 actions, you make a stride and then you jump vertically. If you didn't stride at least 10 feet before making the jump, you automatically fail. This requires a DC 30 athletics check, although the GM can increase or decrease that depending on the situation. On a critical success, you leap 8 feet vertically and 10 feet horizontally. On a success, it's 5 feet both ways. On a failure, you leap normally, which is 3 feet vertically and 5 feet horizontally. On a critical failure, you fall prone in your space. With a long jump, for 2 actions, you stride and then make a horizontal leap in the direction you were striding. Again, you must have moved at least 10 feet, otherwise you automatically fail. If you succeed, you leap a distance equal to your check result, rounded down to the nearest 5 feet. But you can't jump farther than your land speed. These two need to be explained a lot better, and I feel like this is definitely a better way to explain this. Next, of course, we've got the new Reposition action. In order to use this, you must have a hand free, or you must be grappling or restraining the target. The target also can't be more than one size category larger than you. You attempt an athletics check against the target's fortitude DC. If you critically succeed, you can move the target 10 feet, but it must stay within your reach. You also can't move it into or through obstacles. On a success, you can instead move the target 5 feet. But if you critically fail, the target can move you 5 feet as if it had repositioned you. This action would be great if you could find some way to get reach with unarmed attacks. I'm sure there are ways of doing it, I just don't know off the top of my head. But you guys can let me know in the comments. But this is still a good action even if you don't have reach. Because if you're a melee type character and you can move a target so that you're in between it and your ranged buddies, that's pretty good. To shove a target, you must have a hand free and the target can't be more than one size category larger than you. Make an athletics check against your target's fortitude DC. On a critical success, you push the target 10 feet away from you. You can move with the target, but you must move the same distance and direction. On a success, you push the target 5 feet. But if you roll that natural 1, you lose your balance, fall, and land prone. This one is really good for pushing enemies into hazards in the environment. It's also a good way to force enemies to waste an action, as if you push them back, then they have to spend an action moving up to hit you again. And this can get enemies further away from your spellcaster and other ranged buddies as well. Overall, a very good action that I don't think is used anywhere near enough. Swim will almost never come up, so I'm going to cover that very quickly. Swim is very similar to climb, except that, number 1, you can move 10 feet through the water. Number 2, if you're in calm water, you get an automatic critical success. Number 3, if you're in water and you haven't succeeded on a swim check, you begin to sink, or you get moved by the current, GM discretion. And number 4, if you critically fail, you make no progress, and if you were holding your breath, you lose 1 round of air. Overall, I've played in about 10 campaigns since this game started, and swim has never come up. But I am trying to cover the athletic skill in its entirety, so I figured I'd better at least cover it. Between tripping and grappling, tripping is probably going to be the one you're going to use more, as tripping means an athletics check against reflex DC rather than fortitude DC. And a lot less monsters have high reflex DCs. And most of them that do have high reflex DCs are flying creatures that you can't trip anyway. On a critical success, you knock the target prone, and they take an additional 1d6 damage. On a success, you knock the target prone. On a critical failure, you're knocked prone. Remember, prone is also off guard, and that's to everyone, not just you. So that means everybody can hit the target more often, which is always a good thing. And them being prone most likely means they're going to spend an action on their turn getting back up, which not only wastes an action, but it also means anybody with the reactive strike reaction can hit the target when they try to do that. Great athletics action, highly recommend. Keep in mind, every single athletic action that I've covered so far in this video does not require you to be trained in athletics. It's better if you are, but you can do these actions regardless of whether you're trained in athletics or not, which makes something like untrained improvisation so much better. And now we come to the last athletics action, the only trained one, and the one that you guys probably clicked on this video for, the new Disarm rules. Disarm used to be the worst action in all of Pathfinder 2e. The success effect was absolute garbage. You basically did nothing on a success with Disarm, in most cases. However, with the remaster, Disarm has been seriously buffed. You still attempt an athletics check against the target's reflex DC, and on a critical success, you still completely disarm the item. And on a critical failure, you still become off guard until the start of your next turn. The change comes in the success effects. If you succeed, further attempts to disarm the target get a +2 circumstance bonus. And the target takes a -2 penalty to any checks involving that item. That has stayed the same. But the big change is that these effects last until the target either drops the item or spends an interact action to readjust their grip. They either drop the item, costing them an action to pull out a different weapon, they spend an action readjusting their grip, or they take that penalty for the entire combat. Most enemies that you're going to want to disarm are going to be smart, so they're going to spend the action to readjust their grip, which effectively means they're going to be stunned to 1, effectively. And you can do this every round, which effectively means that if you keep succeeding, it's effectively slowed 1, which in my book is a little bit ridiculous. But you do have to succeed in order to get that, so, It's not going to work great on shields unless you get that critical success, but this makes disarming weapons much more worth it. And that's all the base actions you can do in Pathfinder 2e using the athletics skill. There are, of course, skill feats that augment these, but perhaps I'll cover those in a different video. In the meantime, for my current viewers, there is a method to my madness. I will eventually get back to doing teamwork builds on this channel. I just thought since the remaster's out, now's the perfect time to cover these kind of things for new players. But if you guys enjoyed this video, leave a like, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more Pathfinder 2e teamwork content, as well as content for brand new players. If you're interested in the new dying rules, you can check out this video here. Thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, teamwork is vital. It helps us solve problems.